At first, nobody thought much of it. Children disappeared sometimes in the 1920s, especially during the Great Depression years. Some ran away looking for work, some followed strangers promising opportunity, and some simply never came home. But this case became different the moment one boy returned alive. Because according to the people who knew him, he didn't come back the same. Not injured, not violent, not insane, just different. And whenever adults asked him what happened inside that farm, he repeated the same sentence over and over again. He said nobody would believe me. The farm sat outside the quiet town of Wineville, California. Dry land, dusty roads, chicken coops. Nothing about it looked unusual. The owner was a man named Gordon Stewart Northcott. To neighbors, he appeared strange, but not dangerous. Quiet, awkward, sometimes nervous around people. The kind of man most ignored. And that was the problem, because while the town continued normally, children were disappearing. At first, there was no clear pattern. A boy vanishes here, another disappears months later somewhere else. Families searched desperately. Police followed weak leads, but the cases kept dissolving into silence until one boy escaped. His name was Sanford Clark, and when authorities found him, something immediately felt wrong. Not because of injuries, because of his behavior. People later described him as emotionally distant, terrified, like someone constantly expecting danger to return. He struggled to explain what happened clearly, sometimes stopping in the middle of sentences, sometimes staring into space before speaking. And according to investigators, he seemed deeply afraid of one specific thing: the chicken coops behind the farm. At first, police thought the story sounded impossible, too disturbing, too extreme. But Sanford kept repeating details nobody outside the farm should have known. So authorities finally searched the property properly. And that's when the atmosphere changed completely. The deeper investigators moved into the property, the stranger things became. Old tools, burned sites, stained clothing, personal belongings connected to missing children. Then came the chicken coops. Small, dark, silent. The kind of place nobody would normally look twice at. But investigators later admitted something about those structures felt deeply unsettling even before discoveries were made, like the land itself had absorbed fear. As police continued digging, they uncovered evidence connected to several missing boys. The case exploded across America. Newspapers called it one of the most horrifying crimes the country had ever seen. But what disturbed many investigators most was not just the evidence. It was Sanford himself, because he behaved less like someone who escaped, and more like someone who had survived something his mind still couldn't fully process. After returning home, Sanford reportedly struggled with normal life. Loud sounds startled him, questions overwhelmed him, and he rarely spoke about the farm unless pressured. Even then, his descriptions were fragmented, disconnected, like his memory refused to stay in one place too long. And this is where the story becomes more disturbing psychologically, because many people later wondered what exactly happened inside that property that frightened him so deeply. Not just physically, mentally, emotionally. Investigators eventually concluded that fear itself had become part of daily life on that farm. Constant tension, manipulation, isolation, the kind of environment where normal thinking slowly breaks down. And suddenly, the story stopped being just about crime. It became about what prolonged fear can do to a human mind, especially a child. Meanwhile, Northcott fled. For a short time, nobody knew where he had gone. Newspapers covered the story relentlessly. Parents across America became terrified because the case shattered something psychologically. Until then, many families still believed children were safest close to home. But this case suggested something much darker. Sometimes danger looks ordinary. Eventually, Northcott was captured. But even after the arrests, the unease never fully disappeared, because many questions remained unanswered. Authorities were never completely certain how many victims there truly were. Some records conflicted, some evidence was incomplete, and some investigators privately admitted they believed the full truth of the farm died with those involved. But years later, people still remembered Sanford Clark, not because he solved the mystery, but because of the way he returned from it. Quiet, withdrawn, changed, like someone who had seen a side of humanity he could never completely explain to others. And maybe that's the most disturbing part of this story. Not just the crimes, not even the farm, but the realization that trauma does not always leave visible scars. Sometimes, it changes the way someone speaks, sleeps, thinks, trusts, and even after escape. Part of them never fully leaves the place where fear lived, because some people survive terrifying situations physically, while another part of them remains trapped there forever. History is not old. History is living inside us. One day, one event, one lesson. Mr. Feedy